That's indeed it, baby. Pictures of Matchstick Man. When I look into the sky, I see your eyes, a funny kind of yellow. That one goes out to a member of my guides, a member of that seventh dimensional Rainbow Orb Collective. Of course, the only rainbow one in there is the Mothership Orb, but that one goes out to the bright yellow orb because I just had visuals on him. I really didn't have a lot of telepathic communication with that particular orb and their crew. Mine were mainly with, like I've said in other talks, mainly with the Rainbow Mothership one, the bright green one, the Healing Orb, and the blue Calming Ship Orb. And, pink one a little bit, the purple one. We'll get into that another time. We'll get into that especially again when I'm going to have them on with me on Saturday the 28th, which is this coming Saturday. It's going to be at 9 p.m. Pacific, and that will be on Facebook. If you want to listen in, just go to a page called Pleiadian and Angelic Rainbow Orbs Collective. Those were my guides. They're still my guides. I don't really see them physically anymore like I used to, all the time around me, every day, day in and day out, like I did from 2012 to 18. They're there if I need them, telepathically, but I wanted to give a shout out to that beautiful yellow one because it seems like a lot of yellow pictures of those yellow orbs have been coming into my purview lately. In fact, be looking up the orbs and they'd come right in there, and I've made a few posts about them. Plus, I do offer a thing on the page where if you have pictures of orbs that you have taken, you can send them in and I'll post them and give you credit for them with your name and everything. And so I had a lady that had looked me up the other day and wanted to send her pictures in, and she did, and I didn't know what color they were going to be, multicolored, whatever, and I took a look at them today, and they were, of course, they were yellow. So synchronistic. I mean, how surprising. That's the great thing about synchronicity, though. I mean, no matter how, it can happen second by second, and it never gets old. It's wonderful. By the way, I am rocking Larry Locken. I won't go into that. I'm the host with the most from coast to coast routine, and, I'm thinking about even dropping the rockin' from my name. Nah, probably will never do that, but I do if it's serious enough, though. If it's real deadly serious, I wouldn't call myself that. You know what I mean? If I have, then I have before when there's been a planet-wide emergency or something. I won't use it. Or if I'm doing serious news, like I used to do the Light Grid Minute, where I would, talk about a few issues that are going on in our community, the spiritual, New Age, Lightworker, Starseed, however you want to label it, community. And then I would also touch on something in 3D real quick. But typically, I like to have a little bit of fun. Not too long ago, I did a talk. Okay, first of all, let me get this out of the way. Next Saturday night, 9 o'clock Pacific time, which is, for instance, right now, as you're hearing this, well, I guess it really wouldn't matter because most people won't be listening to this live. How could they? I'm taping this, actually. So, when you hear this in a future now moment, it is 1 minute before 11 p.m. What that means to you, nothing, because you could hear it at any future now moment. Okay, so I'm going to have the Rainbow Orb Collective there. This time what I'm going to do, though, is I've opened it up. If you have any questions that you'd like to send in to ask of them, yes, I will be channeling them. The answers will come downloaded through me, unless it's very possible. Well, I don't know about how very it is, because they picked me. I didn't pick them. Or maybe, I probably made a deal with them to be my soul collective, part of that team, but I didn't focus consciously in 3D to put the intention out there for them to come contact me. Not that it wouldn't have worked, but what I'm saying is they will come through me for the answer. I will ask them the question, take a deep breath, take as long as it takes for them to answer it, and then they'll answer it the best they can. The only parameters or stipulations I would ask of you, don't be disrespectful. Don't ask them a trigonometry question. I know you might be cramming for a midterm or whatever, well, it wouldn't be midterms now, but you get what I'm saying? They're not going to answer a question like that. And it's not necessarily because they couldn't answer the question. Probably overall, they could answer a majority of questions that the average person could throw at them in that regard. But, I wouldn't let it happen personally. It would be a waste of time. That's not where to go for it. And anybody doing it anyway would just be being a smart ass. Unless they weren't, which I could tell, but still. Anyway, and don't ask them, well, no, you can ask them anything, but understand this. If you ask them to predict something in the future for you, understand that they will give you some good answers, but it might not be the answer that's going to happen for you in this reality, because they deal with parallel realities. I learned that. I've said this now 5 times, I think, probably on air over the years. I asked them in the beginning one time in 2012. It was before the NFL season started that year. Hey, can you tell me who's going to win the Super Bowl? I'm not going to bet on it. Just tell me who's going to win. Nope. No, they wouldn't. They said why too. Because they exist in an alternate reality, in endless parallel realities, especially still then. Things are coming more together now as far as the timelines and realities blending, but they live and exist in and out of realities where every single team in the NFL will win the Super Bowl every year. Everything, everything you can ever think of that could possibly happen in something like that does happen. So they can't answer they can give you some innate possibilities though. Now, I would not discourage anybody from asking them a question about a future event, because they'll give you innate possibilities. And especially if it's something that's just going to affect you and maybe one other person directly, like maybe it's a relationship question, right? They'll give you the innate possibilities of what could happen. Yeah, but hence why I don't. Okay, that ties into why, like, they're not around me physically all the time anymore, and why I could ask them any question I wanted to, but I don't that often, because I was around them for so long that I understand in every situation I'm in, typically. Okay, I understand every innate possibility that there is, and I think all of us do. And, there are those certain things that come up where we just, hey, man, we don't have a clue what could happen. We don't even fathom what could be a possibility. Yes, I'm not doubting that. And typically, if and when that's the case, it's typically like, to say that it's a major life decision is an understatement, if it's that kind of a scenario. So these aren't your average everyday situations that come up where not only are you not sure, but you don't even know what the innate possibilities are. So, and usually with something like that, they don't have enough information to go. You wouldn't be able to give them enough information anyway. So, but I would not discourage people from asking anything unless you're going to try to be, kind of arrogant about it, or just try to trip them up or whatever. You know what I mean? That's why even if they were jumping in my ear and knew the answer to a serious math question, I wouldn't let them do it. Just set the example, because it wouldn't be the right thing to do. Now, if you were truly desperate and truly needed, some help with a type of math like that, really, and I'm being dead serious here, if that were the case, say, which it won't be, but if it were, contact me off air, and I'll try to, if I can't work through the answer with you, I'll try to, I might be able to help you with something like that. So, even in some fluke scenario like that, I could probably help a little, but don't, but generally, yeah, that's not a cool thing to do. Anyway, so I talked about the Orbs the other day on Instagram. Okay, it was my second time I've conducted a live talk on there ever in the probably over 1,000 hours I've been on air. But it was funny. I had planned on posting that to YouTube. I couldn't do that. Oh, by the way, speaking of YouTube, you are listening to the Larry Locken Channel 1. Sorry, the Larry Locken 1 channel. 1 before the channel. Larry Locken, number 1 channel. At Pleiadian Express Productions /YouTube. We're in association with the smaller channel, Larry Locken, number 2 channel. at Pleiadian Light Grid Project /YouTube, okay? Again, though, this show where they'll be on live with me, that will be on the Pleiadian and Angelic Rainbow Orb Collective page. Now, I'm in the process of trying to change the name of that to get the Angelic switched with Pleiadian and have it called the Angel Pleiadian's Rainbow Orb page. I don't know why I had Pleiadian first when I designed the group, the page. I designed the page. It went into existence on January the 25th of 2015. So we're coming up on 10 years here this January. I had the idea as early back as it was that weekend after Thanksgiving in 2014. So, and I went to work to try to put it together like that weekend. So, that weekend before December of 2014. But it took another 2 months, and for the life of me, I can't remember what it was, but I got hung up on something, and it was a couple little just, how Facebook can get glitchy with anything and everything that you would possibly never think of. They say anything you could possibly ever think of. Facebook can throw little tiny shit at you that you can't even think of until you know it. I mean, it's one of them things where you don't know till you know it, You don't know till you don't know it. You know it till you don't know it. And everything in between and both. Yes, and folks, I understood what I said there. It was a little play on words. But I ran through a talk I did the other day on Instagram. And the reason I did it was because I'd had a channeling that I didn't schedule, but that I went ahead and did impromptu on the Rainbow Orbs, the collective page I'm talking about, the Pleiadian and Angelic Rainbows page. You'd think, after 10 years I'd get the name right. But the funny thing is I had it ready to go, had most of it down, and then I decided, I said I'm going to do this. They gave me the channeling earlier. I took notes on it. And then I said, you know what? I'm just going to tear this piece of paper up, and I'm going to get on there, and I'm going to call them back in, and I'm going to have them just download it through me. I'm going to have them come right through me again as I'm doing live like I used to do my channelings. And so I went ahead and started doing that. Well, it happened to be pouring down rain that night here. And it usually doesn't start raining for about another month here. And my cat wanted in, and he kept meowing. And he was loud, and he was loud, and he was loud, and he got louder and louder. And it threw me for a loop, and I got up to let him in, feed him real quick. I lost my train of thought, sat back down, tried to get it back. My connection with them was fading. Started to come back to me. Well, no, then the cat wanted back out. Okay. Meow, 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 let him back out. Then he wanted in again a couple minutes later, and I just couldn't get it down. I felt so bad. I mean, I think I deleted it. I didn't send it out anywhere else, and I think I put it on a schedule like pages do where it deletes in a few days, because out of, 1,100 hours I've been on air totally over the last close to 12 years. Dude, it was the worst ever. It was horrible. And I've had some hard nights. I've had some hard times and some, real screw ups. But this was awful. In fact, it was so awful. I'm an animal lover and will put my love for animals up against anybody in the world. I hate it, the thought of an animal even being looked at cross-eyed. But it was the one night where, and I didn't say nothing to him. No, I kept it to myself. But man, I got so mad at him. I was like, dude, what are you doing? You're messing with my flow. It's like two male bachelors living together getting in a bickering match. What the hell are you doing, man? Didn't I put a sock on the door so you wouldn't, you knew not to come home a little bit later? I mean, we have 5 like makeshift little sub houses he has on the property. Man, he couldn't wait a little while. No, it was okay though. But yeah, I was like, damn, man. But he'll do that during the rainy season. He doesn't go outside for anything. He's out and he's right back in. Man, not during the spring and the summer, though, in the first part of fall, he's out most of the time, unless he's coming in here to eat. And that's it, and then he's gone to one of his hideouts. But we have a nice little place under the front of the house, under the back of the house, one in the garage, one and two, out in these perfectly insulated bushes out of the back of the yard. So, I guess maybe I should have left a sock tied around the door so he knew not to come back for about an hour. And I'm thinking, man, I only needed, cat, I only needed 20 minutes of daylight. But, yeah, it got me real riled that night. I was really wanting to have it go right. So what I did was I got on Instagram and I went ahead and did a 20-minute talk, just detailing what all these orbs were about, or, the ones that I had dealt with and the ones that I hadn't never seen before, that I'd never physically myself seen before. I know about them all, but there's a few colors I haven't really seen before, and I just wanted to get on and let everybody know in a basic, dry kind of methodical way what the textbook definition of all of them are. And like I said, and I'll say this before I go right into it, and I'll just get on with it. It's the one subject where you don't really have to look that hard. If you've never had any kind of a connection or even a thought about the orbs, in fact, it probably is the one subject where I found where right away you can find out exactly what they do in a clear, as concise, if not more organized way than I found out about them. And I dealt straight with the source in finding out the source of them themselves, right? Because that was the collective I channeled and still do. Just don't ask them for a lot of answers anymore, because there's nothing they can really tell me, because all I would be asking them is, about future situations or this or that, and they only operate on innate possibilities, and anybody who's listening to this can operate on innate possibilities. What's going to happen with any situation, the possibilities of it, unless, yes, there are those fluke once in a while cases you will have in your life. Man, you just don't know. It's not just that you don't have an idea of the outcome. Man, you wouldn't even know where to start. Now, those kind of situations, yeah, but those aren't often. You're going to be able to count on both hands in a whole long life how many times you'd run into that, okay? Really. And so that's really, it happens so often that it doesn't, or it happens so infrequent that it doesn't happen, right? You can't, because it's happened 5 times to you in your life, and you've had to worry about a decision every other day for your whole life. It might as well have never happened, okay? So they there's nothing they're just basically there for support, for guidance, for encouragement, to just be there. They're a guide, they're a mentor, they're not a boss, they're not a supreme leader, they're not a this, they're not a that. They don't want you to go out there and constantly tell people, oh, well, my guide said this. Yeah, oh, my guides. Oh, I just don't know what to do. Oh, my guides are coming through. Oh, my guides, hold on. What are my guides going to do? Oh, my guides are, oh, it's just so crazy. Oh, my guides. Yeah, no, that's the ego, man. They don't, when you're dealing with entities and beings that are that ascended, man, they want to praise you. They love you. They get a kick out of you knowing things. They don't want you to sit there and, oh, my guides are just so incredible. They're wow. But if you're saying it out of a complimentary way, then yes, that's cool. But don't act like they're the end all be all. There are people that do that, and they get so bogged down into that, and the guides stay with them, but the guides are just sitting there shaking their head like, well, they don't do that either, because they don't judge, but they just, if they were forced to give you a 3D illicit reaction, that's what they would do. Just smile and shake their head, because that's not what they're about, man. Jesus washed people's feet, for crying out loud. He didn't want them to kill him and start a religion after him. Yeah, well, that's kind of how it goes here. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a school called 3D down here to learn. So let's get into it, okay? I touched on what all these orbs do. I'm going to be real quick and generic about it, but the differences with this talk is I'm going to also talk about the different colors that have different shades of orbs. You know, for instance, blue might be the one orb that has more than just one alternate. You know, I mean, different shade. That one has a few. The rest of them that I came across only have one that I know of, okay? And none of the offshots are what I dealt with. There was one, and I'll explain that. It was one that was in my collective, but it's just one that I seen a lot. It's not one of the few that I mainly dealt with, okay? I had pretty much all the colors in my orb collective except for a few. They were all a solid color like they all are, except for the rainbow orb, which is a mix of all the, you know, solid orb colors in the collective. Now, when you hear me refer to them as either refer to the word ship, orb, or collective in this term, I mean individual collective in this term, I'm talking about the same thing. I want you to think about that. These orbs, imagine like a fleet of ships. There's a mothership in front. That is the rainbow one. That is the rainbow collective. It's got a mix of all the specialties in it. Each one of those colors represents a specialty ship. All right, and they travel behind it, kind of in a, you know, coming in, you know, in standard formation. Now, let's just be generic here, because as far as the size of these, the solid colored ones in the fleet, ship orbs, orb ships, they have anywhere from, say, well, that you can physically see at a time with the naked eye if they're up close to you, and that's just me, not very many people can. You probably see anywhere from, oh, I don't know, I'm going to say 6 to 10 maybe people. There's probably about 45 to 50 souls if you were to have them individual on each of these, all ascended human beings in some form, from a star system, angelic, whatever, okay? Human beings of some form. Probably 45 to 50 on each of those orbs that I saw or that would visit me. Now, the big one, the rainbow one, now that thing had probably, that thing probably had, oh man, several, I don't know, not quite half of it. Let's say for the thought of saying it at 400, like 400 different souls on there. Now, keep in mind, some people who channel, there's all kinds of guides and star souls and angels and everything like that out there. And some of them have individual names. I've only dealt with a few that had individual names, and they weren't with the Orb Collective. Now, I've seen their same faces before, and as part of the collective of that particular orb. You know, it'd be the same ones I would see, the same orbs I would see, the same looking faces, different faces on there. Okay, same thing. So it's just that I only referred to them, whether they were a female soul or a male soul on that particular orb ship. I would refer to them as that colored orb ship, the rainbow ship, the rainbow orb. I mean, blue orb, yellow orb, green orb. You know, it would be green orb. Hi, green orb. How are you doing? Because they're all part of one, even though they're all individuals on there. They're all part of the collective. Okay, they're all part of the collective. You know, one of six, six of one. And that's what it is. You know, that is the one thing people that aren't in our community, and even some that get into our community, they totally miss the boat on. We're not a cult. We're not about being followers. Yes, we are. We follow each other and we lead each other. We flip-flop roles. We do it in conjunction. Just depends. It balances completely out, though. You know what I mean? It balances completely out. We're each other's teachers. We're each other's students, and back and forth. You know? And fellow classmates, however you want to put it. All in one in all. It's like that. And that's what we're working for. We're not about a cult. We don't put people on a pedestal. You know, we're not the trash tar command. Sorry. No offense to that, but I mean we're not about saying what this person did, saying what that person does. You know, we may do it in a kudos way, like kudos, but or you may come across something or somebody that says something that's awesome and you kind of want to sing their praise. Yes, I think that's perfectly cool, and it is cool. But when you start invoking them time and time and time again, that they said this and they said that, yeah, that's fine. I don't want to, well, what do you say? My thought is, you know what? In my younger days, I'd be shitty about it. I'd be really nasty to somebody about it. Say, I don't give a beep what that mother beeper said. Who cares? And I hope you're not telling that person that you're talking about them like that, because if they're letting you do it without putting you in check for doing it, well, then, you're feeding somebody's ego by doing it. Yeah, no, we're all our own teachers. We're your teacher, you're my teacher. I'm your student, you're my student. And then we're fellow classmates, and we're all, it just depends. But that's what it's about. We're not into a cult. We're not into bullshit. We're not into praising anybody just to praise them. Jesus did not want them, trust me, he did not want them to kill him or try to assassinate him. And then he didn't want those same people to be still to this day running an organized religion after him. But, that's life in 3D. Anyway, let's get into these beautiful orbs here, because I'm sure that they'll come down in 3D and start rolling their eyes at me and telling me to get on with the show and quit boring the people. Okay, now some of these orbs, never seen them before. I wouldn't know. I've tried to take notes on what I've heard about some of them, because in the beginning I was fast and furious with asking anybody and everybody about them, even people that never have heard of them. So, okay, the one exception to that, how I was telling you that the orbs that I seen were always, whatever color they were of that color, it was always the bright version of that color, or that orb. It was always the bright version of it. Only variance from it being the solid color, again, was the rainbow, the mothership. One other sort of exception was the one that always traveled in the back of the fleet to kind of monitor things from the back, I guess. Maybe even is just as important as the Rainbow Orb Collective, if you could put a value on their importance. This one here was, it was white. It was a bright white a lot of the time, but at a certain angle, it would twinge a silver. It would twinge a really sharp silver, okay? Especially on the outline of it. My vibe that I received from that, and basically when I was asking the Rainbow Orb about it one time, about the different orbs that I wasn't sure about telepathically and what, that their function was. And his answer was something, or its answer, the collective's answer from the Rainbow Orb was that they were there to kind of anchor the back end of the Orb Collective, kind of oversee everything going on, but just be there as a silent observer, let their wisdom and the look of them speak for itself. They truly only come to the forefront in a human incarnate's life when what he told me was if you see somebody or run into somebody who's interacting with that particular orb, like that orb or the blue or the green one was interacting with me, like the pink or the yellow do with other people, then it's typically a situation where that person is just about as angelic as you could ever get and still be able to incarnate on Earth. Yeah, that person's a really special person. Like a Mother Teresa, like Jesus, like, boy, I don't know who in modern era, if they saw orbs, if they would. Somebody like a Martin Luther King, somebody, well, I don't even know since him who that would be. I mean, it's no slam on anybody who's lived since then, but I don't think we just don't have anybody like that. You know what I mean? We just don't have anybody who's been in the, well, we do, but we don't have anybody who's been in the public limelight on a worldwide schedule that would, a worldwide stage that would fit that. There's a lot of people, I'm sure, that do that, and that's exactly why they are who they are, humble enough that we don't know who they are on a mass scale. So that's that. If you see that orb around somebody, or you've been told you yourself do, yeah, you're probably something pretty dang special. Not that we all aren't, but yeah, a bright, bright, bright white. Yeah, we'll get into what I was finding out about some of these. I don't want to say dirty orbs, but ones that aren't as profound. A gold orb. Now, the gold orb, yes, it was in the collective that I dealt with. But when that gold orb, if you run into a situation where you're having dealings with the gold orb as predominantly as I was, say, the green, the blue, and the rainbow, then it probably means that what you would think it means. It probably means that you have, there's probably some money coming your way, of a pretty sizable proportion, or rewards are coming your way that are pretty sizable, that are gonna help you monetarily. So that's pretty, self-explanatory. Again, what I didn't finish up on earlier, though, real quick. These orbs, who they are, they're humanoids, different star systems. They're angels. They are, they're folks that have recently departed, okay? They are, a lot of them are souls that are coming to be born into Earth, whether it's to be reincarnated here, whether it's to come here for the first time. It's so that you can spend, some time getting consciously focused on what this planet is about. It's done more and more now, especially with these souls coming in the last 30 years or so, or less, that are really in tune with things already. Okay, so they're taking the time to get to know Earth. That's who it is. And you can read about that. And that's what they told me years ago. And that's what all the research that's in writing right now says about them. The legitimate research, and it's everywhere. It's the one thing that you can find out like that you can find out in the mainstream that'll pretty much tell you exactly what it's about and what it is. That's who they are, Angels, angel incarnate, angels that have never been here before, angel incarnates to here, the newly departed, people coming in here for the first time or reincarnating here. And the majority of the ones I dealt with, humans from other star systems, mostly Pleiades, some Lyra, but Lyra, Pleiades, it's the same thing, okay? Same lineage. Arcturus, that's who they are. And that's not hard to find that out. It's the one thing you're not lied to about usually, is what these orbs do when you look it up, or dissuaded. It's the one thing you can pretty much be guaranteed on, is that it's real easy to figure it out. Okay, the gold. Some people get the gold ones too. I've read confused with the yellow. Now there is a difference. There's a clear visual difference, and there's two shades of yellow as well as the gold. There's a big difference, though. Well, I'm not going to say a big one, but I mean, there's a pretty profound difference. It's not one thing I was reading might have been a little disingenuous, was that it's the same thing. Some people just see them as gold. Some people see them as yellow. No, it's not. And not that it was devious, that it was put down. It just was a mistake. It's not true. In fact, I'll go right into what I know about the bright yellow one. That song that I played in the beginning, Pictures of Matchstick Men, it's got that funny line that starts off the song. That was a psychedelic rock song. It's like, when I look up to the sky, I see your eyes, a funny kind of yellow. Wah, wah, wah. Yeah, well, I used to always think of that song when I'd see that beautiful yellow orb, because it was in the collective I dealt with, Didn't have the one-on-ones I had with that orb like I did the rainbow, green, and blue one. But, it was beautiful. And it's funny because I've been thinking a lot about the yellow orb lately. And I've posted in the Pleiadian Angelic Rainbow Orbs Collective page, say that fast 5 times, I have posted um, 3 posts here in the last week with the yellow orbs, like 3 different ones. They just kept coming to me. Volumes 1, 2, and 3. Mellow Yellow Part 1, Mellow Yellow 2, Mellow Yellow 3. And a lady contacted me, like I let people do on there. If you have a picture of an orb you want to send in, or some orb pictures, if they're halfway good, I'll put them up. You know, and what I mean by good is, I mean, you can tell they're orbs. I'll put them up, and I'll give you credit for them. I'll put your name that you sent them in, and, you know, I'll post them on the timeline. You know, if that's something you're interested in doing, I have no problem doing that. But so this lady contacted me, and she had some pictures of these orbs, and she said, can I send them in? I'm like, sure, I'd be glad to. I'll put your name there. And then she did, and I took a look at them today, and of course, lo and behold, they were all yellow. It was really cool. And it reminded me that I used to have that song run through my head, that old psychedelic rock song, every time I would first see that yellow orb, 12 years ago now. And for the next couple of years after that, I would think of that song, which psychedelic rock. Yeah. On a side note, I'll dig out my notes sometime and get into a channeling I received one time from these Pleiadians that set up shop on fifth dimensional Venus and have been there for eons now, and and how they describe for me how they're not going to take credit for all of Nikola Tesla's ideas, but they put the spark for most of them inside of his head. They also helped the Beatles to find a change to their way they were doing music about halfway through their time as a band together. They talked to me about how they gave the earth, yes, and I will leave it at that and get back into orbs, how they gave the earth marijuana, psychedelic rock, disco, techno, and the influence for the vibrant colors mixed together for, psychedelic type art and hippie type clothing. They discussed with me about 13 years ago how they went about doing all that. And that's a pretty in-depth one, and I'm not sure that I want to rehash that one again, because I think that talking about the past is like that. There's not a lot of people interested in it. I mean, trust me, it's not some information I'm trying to sit on. I've put it out there before, and if anybody within earshot of this hears that part about it, and if you're really curious about how they did that, I'll talk to you about it in private. And I might do it in public, but I don't think so. It's just, there wouldn't be enough people that would be interested in it. And like I said, I'm not going to sit on it. If you want to know, you can each individually message me in private, and I'll tell you. Tell you how they did it. And I'm not the only one that's come up with this before. I mean, there's been people that I've heard talk about this, after I came up with it, and I don't think they heard me say it, because really the only one I ever really talked about was Tesla and his dealings, and he's the one that I've heard other people. One other person mentioned the Beatles thing one time that I'd heard after that, but yeah, never about the disco and the psychedelic rock. Okay, the bright yellow one. The bright yellow one is there to. When you see that bright yellow orb, when you see that orb, it's there to give you like a spark of energy. It's there to energize your aura. It's there to that's why, like, as far as that aura thing goes, if you see somebody with a bright yellow, like the yellow orb color, the bright yellow orb color, if you see that aura on somebody, man, you're dealing with somebody who's just got dynamite energy. And it might be, somebody you work with, somebody in your family. And I think that if you know of anybody like that, it will really resonate with you as far as that goes. Me just saying that, you'll be like, yeah, wow, yeah, they do. I've seen that on them, and man, they're just a go-getter, and they don't stop at anything to accomplish a task. And when that's the case, though, it's a real profound yellow. It's a neon yellow. It's like a bright yellow. It's it would almost be the kind of it almost be the kind of aura you would see around a multiple Super Bowl winning coach, or somebody who runs a Fortune 500 company that earned it, that didn't, like most of them don't. Most of them, yeah, they went to college, they sucked up, they got the lucky break here and there, and then they got in the position they were in, and they're really good at voting themselves a pay raise. I'm not talking about those kind of CEOs of a Fortune 500 company. I'm talking about somebody that started it from the ground up and acknowledged the lucky breaks that he got, because you would never just do any of that on your own. You could do everything the right way. You have to get a lucky break now and then, to make it happen. And those are the first people that acknowledge it. So somebody positive, I should say. A go-getter was somebody positive. A football coach is kind of a bad analogy because, again, it's competition, and really all competition does is divide us. It does, period. You can get under this illusion where, it breeds camaraderie and, and all this. Save it. I get it. If it weren't for all the if it weren't for the human mind game involved and shit like that, yeah, that'd be right. It would. It could. No, that's not what I'm getting at. Believe me, I know it. I coached it for years. I know it is. I know the intricacies of play calling and how it's played as much as anybody that'll probably ever hear this, probably 20 times more than anybody will ever hear this, does about it. So I know, but I also know the bullshit behind it too, and how dangerous it is. And yep, and most moms who let their kids play football, it's like I've told them several times when I coach the young kids, you wouldn't, if you had to sit up where I am at watching the practice and not out in your car, you probably wouldn't, a lot of you wouldn't be letting your kid play. It's like a train wreck, especially nowadays. So that being said, it's a real go-getter that is a positive go-getter. Maybe Mother Teresa's a good example of that again. I don't know. Maybe. Solid black orb. That's the one you really don't want to encounter. You don't, trust me, you don't, and I'm trying not to cuss as much as I used to on air, but that's the MFer that you don't want to hanging around. Yeah, I know you don't want to be rude and be a bad guest and shut anybody out, but if the Orbs want to come visit, that's not the one you want to have come visit. And usually the rest of them don't want him around either, her around either, because it's negative. It's, they're a bad vibe. And when you see them around people, when you see them by themselves, it means that you've got a lot of situations in your life you really need to look at. You probably need to start with yourself. If you are seeing them always close by a certain person, not necessarily you're seeing them alone or on people here at random now and then, but if you're seeing them on a particular person, chances are that person needs some real help, and you either need to kind of love them from a distance, or you need to really hunker in and ground yourself and be ready to go to the mat with all the protection you can get to help this person. So just be very cautious in every facet of your life until you get it figured out with why in the hell why you're seeing that one. Bright orange, the bright orange, my big uncle, or my orb of few thoughts, few words towards me, but appearance said it all. Just a real cool cat. That bright orange one is just like a dream. It's like having a sweet, cool dream. A nice daydream, a walk in the park, a sit on a swinging, chair on the porch with a cold glass of lemonade. Cool. Really cool type of vibe from that orb. Again, not a lot of telepathic one-on-one with it. Just a smile and a wink and a nod from it, like everything's cool. And that's it. That's the if I could say that one thing, if I were to rate any of them in a 3D quality, that orb was probably the coolest. Like, it was the coolest orb, the orange one I dealt with. It was just kind of there. It wasn't, there wasn't that telepathic communication I had with it ongoing at length, like I did with a few of the others. Now contrast that with the other shade of orange. That dark one, that is okay. There's another one that I have seen before. I had mentioned, I think I did on another talk, where most of the ones, the color orbs I had seen, except for the white one, it was a solid bright color, whatever color it happened to be. The orange bright one saw a lot. Now, a few times I saw that dark one. It was like a murky orange. It was, I thought it was kind of a brown, but really it was an orange. And the only reason why it made me think of it is I was on Pinterest the other day, and I was looking at different orb pictures for the page, and I saw 3 different ones that had, one by itself and 2 other pictures that had a few different colored orbs in it, but one of them was it called an orange orb. And one of them said a murky orange orb. And I just kind of looked at it, and the vibe I got from it, and this is just me, it didn't really go into a lot about, I don't seem to be finding a lot of info on it, but the feeling and the vibe I got from my gut from it was that it was kind of like the opposite of that. It'd be like having that uncle that was, was once really cool, and maybe he just kind of went astray and maybe started having some bad issues, self-destructive behaviors, and just not something you want to be around, right? It was funny. It was like it'd be like if somebody took that orange orb and let all the air completely out of it, and it just all of a sudden, was missing work, was missing school, was gambling excessively. I don't know, just not a good vibe I got from it. I don't know, just, I try to go off vibe on everything, and I try to make sure and question myself over and over and over again that I'm not judging it, because we can say we have no judgment, but we have a little bit left in us, some of us do, and I'd love to say, oh, I have no judgment. Well, I don't let my judgment affect how I would help somebody that was, that anything I could do to possibly help them where they needed it, I would, and it wouldn't matter to me whether I thought they were a complete piece of low down shit and talked all kinds of garbage about them, right? Say I did. I wouldn't be necessarily any less disinclined to help them, especially when it was something that they not necessarily wanted, but they truly needed. Hell no, I wouldn't even think twice about helping them any less than I would somebody who was an angel, to be honest with you. Maybe that's my downfall in a way in 3D, but no. So any judgment I would have against them, it's not going to sway me one way or the other. They're still going to get the same damn help, pretty much. Yeah, that black one, it's funny because I've only seen that black one time in my life, and it was black. The black orb was around the person, but then around the person's head, they had this white, like, dingy aura around them, and in the middle it had these little, one profound black dot, and then a couple of little black dots around him. This was a best friend of mine. He was staying with me for a couple weeks about 9 years ago. Yeah, it was about 8 years ago. About 8 years ago, because it was the summer before the election, not the last one in 2020, but 2020 or 2016. And I was doing my own thing. He was doing his, and he was sitting in this one room in my house, and I had all these lights on in there, and he was sitting there just, I don't know, he was drinking, he was high, he was coming down off of methamphetamine, he was having some relationship issues, some issues with his parents and shit, after all these years, and man, and he just was laughing sadistically to himself, and then getting all upset and crying, and one moment I walked by, He'd be upset, crying one moment, he'd be laughing like a madman. And man, this thing stayed at him. This about 2 hours went by, and my orbs were coming in every night at the time. And I just telepathically, I finally said to the rainbow one, I said, you know what? What's the deal with that thing over there by him? That isn't with you guys, is it? And he explained to me, no, it's not, but it tends to show up a lot around people that are having multiple negative issues in their life. And I, telepathically right back at the orb, I said, well, that would be him. And the orb said, yes, we've noticed. We're here every night. Swear to God, true story. I said, well, and I'm thinking this through. Keep in mind, I didn't, it was telepathic, but sometimes I would verbally speak to them. I'm like, can you guys do something about getting that thing out of here? I mean, it's creepy. Yeah, well, they did, and it left, and and thank goodness they were there, because I'm no baby, but I probably would not have been able to rest until daybreak. That being the case, but that was the only time I ever dealt with it or saw it personally. And please, people, I don't want to see it. I mean, it can, I don't want it to. I don't wish it any ill will per se, but I really don't want it to come hanging around too much. Okay. I had mentioned, now we'll get into that one in a second, okay, because I want to get those in a block, but I got to move real quick here. Okay. The bright green one. The bright green one is for healing. Pure and simple. Medicinal purposes, any other purposes, it is there to heal. It is there to assist even in pharmaceutical medicine or, Western techniques, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's a healing orb, pure and simple, the bright green one. Okay, that's the bright green one. Now, when we talk about that dark or murky one, the dark and murky one is usually just to, when somebody's having a difficult time, a disease, okay, it appears when the negative energy is released. So it kind of coincides with each other in a way. Think of it like this way. That green, the dark murky one, green orb, that will help release any bad energy that an animal is having, that a human is having, whatever it may be. If they happen to be healing from a bad time in their life, it gets released. Hence, the bright one can come in and heal it. I've never seen the two of them together, but then again, I've never seen, the many of the darker ones, period, or the, less defined neon type ones myself at all much. Okay, mainly it's just been bright ones. Few exceptions. That's it. Okay, the pink one. Let's go hit the pink and the red real quick. The pink one. Now, the pink one's a yin and yang too. The murky, that dark pink, if you get a murky pink, not as defined of a pink, it generally will start appearing when you've let your insecurities take over your life, you've let jealousy take over in a relationship. Guess what? You're going to see probably, if you see an orb at all, when that's going on predominantly, you're going to get to have that not so sweet looking, not so hot pink orb pay you a visit. Okay? However, when things are going really good with you and your loved ones, children, parents, friends, I'm going to put aside intimate relationships for a second. When those other relationships are thriving for you or are about to thrive for you, guess what? That nice hot pink one, if you're an orb person, that's the one that's going to come around, okay? That's the one that's going to come around. Now, that ties into what I just said, not that, that I wasn't counting relationships in that. When you're involved in a great relationship, it will be a bright red. That's the difference. It'll be a bright red looking version of that bright pink one when it has to do with like an intimate relationship or a partnership you're involved in. Family, friends, children, parents, whatever. Bright pink, good relationship. Bright red when it's with a partner. That's just the way it seems to work out. Okay? That's just how it is. Now, as far as the blues go, there's so many different options with the blues. Okay, there's a ton of different shades. Okay, basically they're there for two reasons. Okay, the they're there to keep you calm, keep you calm, keep you calm. I say healing, but keeping you calm is a form of healing. Okay, especially when you're seeing the bright blue one, that bright, distinctively bright blue one, that one is there to kind of calm you down by cleansing your soul, by cleansing your outlook on how you approach relationships of all sorts. Maybe you're a spaz case like me and you just can't help yourself and you can't get that root chakra grounded, so you have had a tendency in the past to um, mess things up by just being who you are and not being able to just calm down and relax and just calm down in the now moment. Okay? That's what the bright blue orb does. And by doing that also, it also infuses you with energy that you're not used to having because you've been using so much of your time to be caught up in, that game of not being able to calm down, for the lack of a better term. It's really, it's been my own worst enemy, I can tell you that. And so that bright blue one is kind of a special version of the calminess that those blue ones offer, that they all offer. It's kind of for it's like the blue calming orb on steroids for people that really, really need it, mind, body, and soul, in and out. Okay, to just go down to that hardcore soul level, to calm your past lives, to calm your parallel realities, the whole being that is you. Hell, it might even reach out into soul fragments of you and everything that is you. And therefore, one of the healing properties, or the healing property of that particular color, what makes that particular shade of blue orb, a healer too, is because your energy is repaired. You all of a sudden feel like you're full of life. You have some life back in you, and not only do you have that life back in you, you're full of life again. Okay, that's what it does for you. That's what the bright blue one does. Now, the sky blue one, which is a beautiful one. Oh, I want to thank a friend of mine. I thanked her last night, and on her timeline too, Yvonne Ganez. She lives in Sweden. She's a really cool lady, man. This lady gets the most amazing pictures. It's phenomenal. And there's no way even the best photographer on the planet could be that good. She is good at it, don't get me wrong, but she gets hers through spirit. This lady is a ascended Arcturian mind, you know what I mean? She's so cool. In fact, she's so cool that when you interact with her, you realize, this soul is not from planet Earth. Yeah, not from any time in this time frame. Anyway, yeah, no, she's really cool, and she gets the most amazing orb pictures. That's just part of it. The translucent colored pictures she gets, out of this world. Look, we're about up against it here. I'm going to have to stop this, and I'm going to have to do another. I'm going to have to come back on. Okay, we touched on just like one of the blue shades. There's about 4 of them, and I'm going to have to get into the others here in just a minute. All right, because this talk has went on now for an hour. And here, let's see if it clicks off. If not, okay, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to try to keep going here and get this all in. Okay, so I was just starting to touch on the sky blue. Yeah, again, it kind of ties in. Okay, I'm not, the only thing that I had from that particular one is some notes, and I want you to understand that anybody listening to this, what I'm about to tell you about the sky blue orb, is that I can't say this is coming from just what I have researched about it. Okay, I don't know this to be the case because I had just assumed previously that it was just I was just seeing a not as defined version of the typical bright one, the calming one that I had witnessed when I had seen it. Of course, it didn't resonate as much with me because it wasn't as outlined to me as the brighter one. But basically, what I found out about the sky blue one is that it's kind of like, I guess, you'd almost want to call it an extension of the bright pink, the neon pink orb, because once you're like in love in a relationship, what I found out is that the sky blue one will come along when you need some reassurance about things, when you need to be reassured that that is the right relationship for you. Wait a minute, hold on, I just had an epiphany. People, if you're hearing this, oh, okay. It makes all the damn sense in the world now. Especially by, like I call it, Yvonne, I call her my star auntie. She's like my aunt from the cosmos looking out for me, man. She's cool. And I told her, she gave me a good idea, and I don't think she even knows she did it. She does now. About, I'm going to be channeling this collector from Arcturus, the translucent color realms. I talked about that earlier. Now, these light blue ones are to help reassure you about a love that you're falling in love with. Well, I'm trying to fall in love with myself still. I'm learning to fall in love with myself. You know what I mean? And to know that it's okay. And so those orbs that she gave me were just another reassurance letting me know that it's okay for me to love myself. It's okay for me to fall in love with myself. Yeah. And it's weird. She couldn't have contacted me at the at the better time last night because she had those come up in her memories and she sent them to me. Well, little did she know at the time is I was having probably the first attempted psychic attack on me, and only the third one I've ever had, major one that I ever had, or halfway major one. I wouldn't call any of them major, except, yeah, I would call the other two major. But this one wasn't major. It was just, yeah, I could tell what they were trying to do, and it didn't work. And it was just, she couldn't have messaged me at a more opportune time with that than those. And I'll probably fumble over myself telling her this 1,000 more times till I annoy her because it was that profound. Yeah. Believe me, if she knew what a big deal it was, like inside of her sending me those at the time she did, she'd probably be okay with me messaging her like 5 times a day about it for a while. But it was just really those. So this can be about a relationship with yourself too. Needing, especially when it comes to loving yourself, because it's one thing to not know it, then it's a whole other thing to know you need to, and it's a whole hell of another thing to understand what it might be like, and then it's a fourth thing altogether to actually be in love with yourself, to really be there. I'm at that third level finally in life where I can, yeah, where you can see into that fourth level, and I'm at that part of the level where I can almost feel what it's like, but I'm not quite there yet. So the light blue orbs are about falling in love with yourself, and that's me. So at first, see, I was thinking in 3D terms. I'm like, yeah, well, okay, that's weird. I've never heard two colors so opposite cross over like that in their complementariness of each other. I mean, they all complement each other. Let's face it, but um, that was weird, and then it makes all the sense in the world. Okay, it's calming yourself down to love yourself. So there's a lot of, and I always figured that too, even though I always associated the green one with having that game, and the blue one being its assistant to calm the people before they were healed by the green. But the blue has a lot I always thought the blue had a lot of healing properties. I just never thought about it too deeply or gave it a lot of thought. Um, and they say that the Mayan Indians, I'm pretty sure it was the Mayan Indians. It was the Mayans, or it was one other indigenous tribe from back in antiquity that, and this is hard for me to explain to some people, and even because when I heard it, it I wasn't given a way to explain it to people, but I understood how it would be or how it could be. Now, this particular tribe, when they look at colors, they don't associate any difference between, and it's my understanding still to this day even, they don't understand any difference, any differential between green and blue. The colors green and blue, same color. Green is blue. It's the same color. Blue is green, same color. Um, and of course, we all know that it's a 50-50 yellow-blue mix, is what green is. But it's weird. I could never in a million years explain that or had it explained to me, but I get it. I can see how that could be in some weird innate way. Kind of weird. So I guess language isn't everything. You know, if you see a fuchsia kind of or a hot pink, and again, I can't tell the difference between a fuchsia and a hot pink, but the fuchsia is meant to let you know that love is around the corner. Hey, it's coming your way. As opposed to working on it, it's coming your way. Just be patient. Hang in there. Hang in there. Hang in there. Which I always thought of. I always kind of tied the purple, the deep purple orbs that I had seen into that, because when like what I call a really bright predominant purple, or I should say a deep purple, like a really deep solid purple, almost like it's so purple it's almost blue, it's almost like a dark blue or average blue. It means that somebody's thinking about you, and somebody's wondering how you're doing, and you're really on their mind a lot. Somebody that loves you, somebody who's in love with you. Okay. Now, the only dealings I had with that particular orb was when my ex-wife, soon to be, we've been split up a year and a half now, and yeah, we talk though. We're still okay with that, like that, but yeah, just didn't, personal issues that went on there, but we're cool with that. But when she was over in Denmark before she moved over here to be with me, I would see that deep purple orb a lot. I thought it was really cool. I loved the band Deep Purple when I was growing up. Not that has anything to do with anything, but it means that somebody's really thinking about you. If that thing keeps coming around in your life, man, somebody's in love with you more than likely, and they're thinking about you, or it's somebody that you are in a relationship with, and they're at a distance. It's a long distance relationship, but they really are truly and truly in love with you. Well, that's about it. It's just a reminder. And people, most of this stuff is not rocket science. You can look this stuff up. Everything that I've ever found, when you really look at somebody who knows what they're talking about orbs, I'm not talking about some generic shit about somebody guessing about it. I'm talking about people that really take the time to go in depth about them. It's right. It's the one mainstream thing you can find on something that's, you can't really go wrong with it, for the most part. I don't. 8 out of 10 sources you're going to find about this stuff on the internet, they're telling it to you 100%, just like extraterrestrials have told me, straight up. When you see a violet purple, though, when you see a violet purple, you know an angel is close by, or a really ascended spirit guide, which is usually an angel, is close by. I've only seen that indigo violet type of purple. I've only seen it twice in my life, 2 times ever. And the one was definitely an angel right by me. He didn't save my life from anything in that moment. It isn't going to be a story like that, but it felt as angelic as I've ever felt for about a while, several minutes, until I had to go to the store or something. I was alone one day, sitting there watching TV, And well, I wasn't really watching TV. I had it on this channel, or this section of the cable system, or I think I had DirecTV then. And it, you could listen to all those music channels. It was just audio, and all it did was run across the bottom of the screen what the song was. Well, this was a song by Joni Mitchell, and I'm having trouble remembering it. And the sad thing is, I have a photographic memory, and it's one of the top 100 or top 50 greatest songs in my opinion. To me, my opinion, greatest songs, not in the history of annals, but mine. It's by Joni Mitchell. And it was like, it was a song I'd always hear in my crib. It was a year old when I was born, and I almost feel like I heard it on another timeline, but not here on Earth. I know a lot of this music from not Earth. This stuff has all been written before because everything's a blueprint here. So things have been written before. Okay, songs have been done before. Hits that we have on this planet have been hit songs at other times on other planets. Just how it is. It's true. And sometimes with a couple of little variations, sometimes exactly alike. Okay, so this smiley looking purple figure, indigo, violet type of indigo, purple. I know there's a little bit of a difference, but you get the point. It was there and it was smiling at me. It had this grin on its face and it was just looking at me like with its eyes, kind of batting its eyes at me, and like swaying its head back and forth, and it got more and more predominant. First of all, it started off as a purple orb, an indigo orb of that color. Then that face become more predominant. It was just looking at me through the whole song, and I felt so loved, and it was so exciting. And I usually don't get giddy like that about stuff, but it was really cool, man. It was really neat to see him there. And then I had to get up and go to the store. I don't know, my 3D mind in my hand. Oh, God, I better get up. This has been nice, but dude, I got to get up and go and get it over with. Rush through shit, get it over with, hurry up. The only other time I seen it, about a year later, maybe, not even. My son had a couple friends staying the night over. They were doing their thing. I was doing mine on the computer. I was out making something in the kitchen. I had Coast to Coast AM on because my son liked me to have it on Friday nights, and he would always try to get me to call George Norrie, and I don't like George Norrie. I mean, I love everybody, but he runs a really boring show. He's all about conspiracy theories, and it's the same old shit over and over again. If they have another JFK assassination expert say that quick 5 times on there again, I'm going to flip out. It'll probably be the one time I'll go psycho, because there's nothing more that can be said about that case ever. In fact, I don't even want the truth to come out. I want it to be burned up, not because I want it to be hidden, because I think it's bullshit. And what could be worse? You know what? I would listen to 1,000,000 of these new experts come out if you could promise me one thing. If you could promise me that the real story is going to be more insane than JFK's wife, the vice president, the mafia, the KGB, the CIA, and there's one other agency I had in this. Mafia, KGB, CIA, FBI, the Russians, that's the KGB, the Chinese, Jackie Onassis, his wife, and Lyndon Johnson. I want to know that all of them people together, if they were involved in the assassination attempt, if it's only that, I don't want to know. If it's only that, I'm going to be pissed, and I'm going to say that's a bunch of boring, lame bullshit. So, and that aliens helped them. So it's got to be more sensational than all of those people joining forces in an elaborate plot to kill him, which is very possible. I mean, if it's anything less than that, I'll get angry because it was such a waste of time to hear. If it's that, I'll just be like, that's pretty boring. Can't they made up something a little bit better? Well, no, you couldn't. What could you possibly make up better that, that Martin Luther King was involved in it? Or something. I don't know. Some other figure from back then, too, that had nothing to do with it. I don't know. Rosa Parks was involved in the assassination attempt. I don't know. It'd have to be something really out of left field, and even then it'd just be like, I'd give it a huh. No, it's stupid. But these people are making money off it. Anyway, Coast to Coast is boring. It sucks. 25 minutes of commercials an hour. So my son was always trying to get me to call in, and I would sometimes, but I couldn't get through. I told him, why don't you call, Kyron? Why don't you call? So, and I had him call because there was a lady on there talking about auras. It happened to be one of the one nights where it was actually a cool show. It wasn't because of George. It was because of this lady. In fact, if it weren't George, the show would have probably been better even. Because he sucks, people. I mean, really, he does. I'm no prize on the air. I ramble, I get shit wrong, I forget. But, well, I wouldn't be better than him because paranoid people like him. So that's just how it is. Um, anyway, Chiron had this aura around him, and not only did he have this indigo violet type aura around him, he had this orb on top of his head. Okay, he had this orb on top of his head that was that color, and it was the same color as that angel that I had seen, or that angel-looking figure. And so he called, he got through, and Tom Danheiser, the producer, wasn't going to let him on, and he finally, Chiron talked him into it. I got on the phone actually and talked to Tom into letting him get on. I gave him permission, and George gets on and calls him. And let's go to Kyrene in Coos Bay, Oregon. I've got to get the tape sometime. It used to be on Coast to Coast. If you're an insider, pay $10 a month. You can go back 5 years, but this has been 10 years now. I got it once for a month to see if there was anything I wanted to tape off of it, or I got it for a few months one time about 6 years ago, and man, it isn't worth 10 cents a month, honestly. It isn't. In fact, it wouldn't be worth to have for free if I had to go to any effort to have it happen. No, not even one time. Unless they went back 10 years, I'd pay $50 one time just to get that voice recording of that call he had. I should have taped it because I did go back and listen to it, but it wouldn't be on there now. They only got 5 years. Anyway, Chiron gets on there, tells this lady what I told her, or tells this lady what I told him about the orb and the aura that was on him. Okay, and so she goes into this thing about, she describes him perfectly. She says that he, that he loves other people. He's protected by a lot of light warriors. He's a wise old soul. He's going to spend his life in his spare time being in service to others. And he is nothing but, he's pure love. And he's just an angel of a little boy. And she was right. It was hard. It was really hard because that is my son. And, everybody loves their own kids, but no, mine three are pretty cool. They're all perfectly straight-laced, successful kids with the biggest fuck-up of a dad, spoiled, only child growing up kid that never had any guidance except was just given everything he needed, but was never shown anything at the same time, raised himself. And don't get it twisted, people. I had material, everything I needed growing up. I just didn't have nobody that made me do anything. It was great, believe me. I had the best life. If you're only going to live till you're 18 years old, well, that's not true because I was raped as a little boy quite a bit. But from the time I was probably 6 years old till I was 18, you could never, unless, you were completely wealthy in that way. But you couldn't have a better life from 12 to 18 in your own childlike head, okay? But what it did was I had no discipline to study. I had no discipline to, I was a great kid, and it's just too bad that I didn't have that because I regret it now, and I blame myself for it. I think, well, I knew better. I knew better, but I didn't know better. It's one thing to know it. Knowing it is only half the battle. That don't mean shit unless you're full of the feeling. Yeah, so it don't really get you there just to know it. It's just half the battle. They're right there. That pink, the violet thing is, so basically that's what that is when it's of that shade right there. It just shows that you've got guides around you. So basically the purples are somebody's thinking about you. The violet, the indigos, the off shades, whether it's the deep purple, somebody, some entity on some level is watching over you or thinking about you. You're on their mind, you're in their purview all the time, constantly. And like I said, these orbs are not rocket science, people. We talked about the yellow one earlier, or the bright one, right? The bright one, and what it meant, and the brighter, the more beneficial it is for you. Yeah, well, In the recap, that bright one is there. The bright one will also encourage you. If it sees that on your horizon, in your innate timeline, like, they don't get involved in predicting, that they see coming up quick, you have an opportunity for a promotion. Go back to school. Um, do something great, and you've got a great chance of being picked to be the one to get that position or to be awarded that scholarship. They will come into your life and they will really do everything they can without breaking your free will to push you into that, to make sure that you have every sign possible to take it, to go with it, to run with it. And they'll only do that when they're sure. And if it's something coming up in the very near future, because again, every little step you take messes with can screw with that timeline, put you off into another parallel reality. And so that's what that one does. Now, you see it looking a little tainted, like somebody threw a little bit of soy sauce into your mustard and darkens it a little, and a black orb tries to breed with your yellow orb. That is trying to tell you that you need to watch out. Something is really, and again, they don't want to break with your free will, but they're going to tell you, they're trying to tell you to watch out. Just be careful in the next few whatever, until you'll know too, because if you heed the advice, you'll still know, because something will happen to where you will know you missed, or you avoided doing this or that. You avoided making that long flight. You didn't go to this particular place alone. You know what I mean? You'll know, because it's something that you'll hear in the news or whatever. You'll more than likely find out. That's how predominant it is. They're not going to just. It's when something's imminent, and it's going to be something you obviously would probably more than overwhelming likely do without them interceding. So you'll know. You'll know. Trust me. If you ever see that dirty yellow orb, just be careful, and then pay attention to anything happening, anything as far as hearing about it in the future. Yeah, we're almost getting through it finally. Wow. The dark, I think I did touch on, I'm trying to go back here, the green one. Yeah, we talked about the yin and yang of the green orb. A couple of these have a yin and a yang, the yellow, the green. It seems to me like I always had a problem with the red. I know the red one is mainly for, like, to talk to you about, yeah, the red one's another yin. Let's close on that red orb. And I don't like the color red. I think it's gorgeous, though. It's funny. I love red roses. I think red looks good in it. I respect red. It's really weird. I don't like red, but I respect red. I think it looks beautiful on some things. Personally, me, I would never choose to have a red car. I would never choose to have a red this or a red that. I just never would, except I would have, if I had a big rose garden, yes, I'd have red roses in there. But I don't like a red. I respect it. I'd rather have a blue, I'd rather have a really cool ice blue or a cool blue type of a hot rod than a red one. And red ones look nice. But I just don't, red represents hostility to me. That's just me, though. I'm one soul. Red, is a something you respect so much that you almost love it because you respect it so much. But I don't. It's not something I would just choose to have. I wouldn't make a conscious decision to, man, I want that in red. Oh, I want this in. No, there is absolutely nothing besides a rose. And even at a rose, I'd rather have yellow roses. I'd rather have pink roses. I'd rather have, that's just natural roses. I'd rather have crossbred ones that were blue, whatever, any color. But I love them. Red ones, red roses are the only product, though, that I would ever buy that's red. I would not, no, coat, nothing. Never. I'd take one if somebody gave it to me and be respectful and wear it, but I wouldn't. Red tie, sure. Like, I wouldn't mess with it. Too hostile. I like a calmness. I mean, my nickname used to be the Iceman, for crying out loud. Big blue letters across my hat and my Raiders cap in high school. Of course, I don't like red. Not even going to bring up the Bloods and the Crips. That's a whole other story, folks. That was another lifetime. And that's it, pretty much. So, Again, I want to remind anybody, and no, but I bet you, I'll tell you what, if anybody hears this part of the broadcast, and I swear to God to you, I'll give you $20. Message me, and I'll send it to your PayPal. You can donate it to your favorite charity. If anybody out here hears this, message me on Facebook. Swear. If I'm lying, call me out on it. I'm telling you. And if you don't need the money or don't want to do it, there's a charity out there that would like it. Seriously. Anyway, but if anybody does, for that one person that may on a fluke, hear this. Yeah, so this coming Saturday, it'll be 9 o'clock my time. And here, I can be honest. No, I can't even tell you again. What the hell am I thinking? This isn't live, Larry. I don't operate in a time frame. Not on, usually when I do broadcasts either. Even when it's live, we don't operate out of time. So anyway, 9 p.m. This will be live, what I'm talking about though. 9 p.m. Saturday night, the 28th. Come on, come all. We'll all have a ball. It'll be Sunday. It'll be Saturday night at the Pleiadian Angelic Rainbow Orbs Collective page on Facebook. Larry Locken will have the 7th dimensional Pleiadian Lyran Arcturian Rainbow Orb Collective there. If you have any questions you want me to ask them, you can either come on in and ask them to me, or I'll set the chat room up, or you can message them to me in private, message them in on the board. One thing, do not send a private message to that page. Reason being, it isn't like it used to be. They all don't go to my particular timeline. Each of my 7 that I actively run, 20 that I have, now, since I got them back, they, Facebook had them for a year and a half, by the way. All my pages for a copyright issue. Never would say anything else about it. I figured they were gone. A few months ago, got them back after a year and a half. They said, the issue's been resolved. But if you send a message to me on there, if you go to the page and try to send that message on that page, it will go to messages from that page. And I don't check those. I don't even think to hardly ever. In fact, I hadn't it'd been years. And I checked them about a month ago, and some really cool lady, her name is Liz Webb, by the way. She's got a really killer Instagram orb channel, Amazing Orbs. She just crossed over 4,000 orb pictures. They're beautiful. Okay, she'd been messaging me. I had no idea. They don't go. They used to, every page you had, all the info or all the messages would go right to your timeline messenger, right to that, all in one. Just like if you'd go post to one of your pages, right? Guess what? You didn't have to, you could do it with your timeline name. Not now. If you want to go post on your page timeline, you have to go in, you have to log into that one. Takes about 10 seconds, now 5 seconds, but it's forever for me. And then do your thing, and then to share it to any of the groups that your timeline name is in, you have to then log back out of that page, log back into your name. It's just screwed up. I mean, you'd think if you didn't know better that technology would have went the other way, that at first they had it to where you had to go to each one individually, log in to it, and get your messages sent to you through there, and then eventually they would progress to the fact that where it all could be linked under your name. No, it went in the opposite direction. But anyway, that's it. Larry Locken, in association with what you're listening to on here now, Larry Locken 1 channel, formerly known as this, Larry Locken 1 channel at Pleiadian Express Productions /YouTube. Smaller channel, Larry Locken 2 channel at Pleiadian Light Grid Project /YouTube. Also have a tiny channel. It's got 4 shows on it. 3 channelings, 1 show. The 2 channelings, 1 show are from 9 years ago. 1 channeling was from this year. That's called Larry 3 Locken. Larry Locken 3 channel at Arcturian Crystalline Grid Project /YouTube. Don't think about that one for now. Eventually that one will get going, but all in due time. Okay, you can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on TikTok. You can find me on WhatsApp. You can find me on Pinterest. You can find me at all of those at Larry Locken channel. You can find me on Skype, Snapchat, and X at Larry Locken channel on X as well. Larry Locken channel on all of them except for two things, Snapchat and Skype. Snapchat and Skype, I'm just Larry Locken, and Facebook. Larry Locken on those three. And then everything else, every other social platform. I don't have Telegram. I have somebody who's trying to get me to get it all the time. I just have bad energy with it. It's bad enough I got X. I only took X back because I already have